I'm very proud to have as my ranking member Senator John Thune.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing. And I want to thank our witnesses, our panelists who are here today for being with us and sharing your perspectives and insights with us. And Chairman Rockefeller, I want to start by complimenting you and your success nearly 20 years ago to include language in the 1996 Act that laid the groundwork for E-rate. While we might disagree on some of the particulars on how to modernize the program today, your commitment and determination then and now to deliver the promise of technology to our nation's schools and libraries is a very laudable one. And you deserve a lot of credit for your great work and vision way back at that time. The goal of the E-rate program is to connect America's classrooms, and by and large today they are connected. E-rate has played a role in this development, and I agree with champions of the program, like our new colleague, Senator Markey, who note that the original goals of E-rate have largely been met. I also agree that the program needs to be reformed. E-rate is nearly 2 decades old, and like many of our communications laws, it could better reflect today's digital reality. Like you, I'm pleased that the FCC plans to move forward on Friday with the rulemaking to begin the modernization of E-rate. Online activity in schools will no doubt continue to increase, as it will throughout our society. But I hope E-rate will avoid prioritizing reaching debatable speed goals for some schools at the expense of necessary connectivity in others. As we consider ultra-fast broadband in American classrooms, we must not lose sight of those schools and students that still need more basic communication services. The President's Connect ED initiative includes the goal of connecting 99% of America's primary and secondary students with high-speed broadband and wireless within 5 years. We should keep in mind, however, that the unreached 1% in this case amounts to over 500,000 students, and that assumes the goal is met, so the real number could be much higher. As a senator from a very rural state with just 147,000 school children, the parents, teachers, and students that I represent would like to know where they stand as a priority for this federal program moving ahead. The fact is, schools in remote areas are simply more expensive to reach with service than their counterparts in more populated areas, which are typically located much closer to network infrastructure. This has always been the underlying issue at hand with universal service, and I look forward to seeing how the FCC addresses this reality through E-rate reform. I also want to draw particular attention to FCC Commissioner Pai's speech delivered yesterday, in which he outlined several reform ideas for the Commission to consider. I'm intrigued by many of Commissioner Pai's proposals, such as providing more simplicity, transparency, and accountability for the E-rate program and its beneficiaries. I'm also pleased by his focus on local decision-making and flexibility, allowing schools to meet their own needs, which may not always be what Washington assumes. Finally, I want to applaud his suggestion that reform be achieved within the current resources available to Universal Services Fund. The President, rolling out his Connect ED initiative, also directed the Federal Government to make better use of existing funds to get Internet connectivity and educational technology into classrooms. I agree with Commissioner Pai and the President because it is very important for all government programs to stay within their means in this difficult fiscal and economic environment. Again, Mr. Chairman, thank you for holding today's hearing. I look forward to working with you to continue our committee's oversight of the FCC and its E-rate rulemaking. And as we have votes later today, I also have a Ag Committee oversight hearing with the CFTC, and it's an issue that's important in my state, so I'll probably be trying to bounce back and forth, but I appreciate us having the hearing and, again, the panelists who are with us today, and I look forward to what you have to say. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would direct this to the panel, whoever would like to comment, but E-rate support is not based on the actual cost of delivering the service, but rather provides discounts based on the percentage of a school student population eligible for the National School Lunch Program, with a small additional increase for rural schools. As we discuss modernizing E-rate and specifically setting bandwidth goals, does that current distribution method equitably provide for schools that may have fewer poor students but dramatically higher cost of service? Whomever.
I join in that question. We both suffer as rural states, particularly under the sequester thing.
Right.
As you know, I'm a big fan of E-rate, but I also believe in business that there's few things that can't be made better and more efficient. I think as you open up E-rate in the FCC process. Issues of fairness should be looked at in all areas, across states, across rural and non-rural, across poor and wealthy. And just as technology has changed over time, there may be good ideas that are available to you today to address some of these issues, Senator. I would highlight, however, that one thing we've learned in business is if you have something that works, don't mess with it too much. So while we look for an even better and modernized E-rate, I hope we will learn from the success we've had.
Senator, it's a good question, and I'm not an expert on the distribution of various schools, but what I would say is the recommendation that we've made and are focused on is really to build the minimum standards and bandwidth for schools based on the number of students, whether they be in a rural area or an urban area, so that we're actually not just driving the connectivity to the school, we're driving the connectivity and the benefits to the student. And I think that that's really the clear focus as it relates to how do we ensure that all students are participating in the technology advancements that can be benefited from a new E-rate program.
Please.
I would just say that my direct experience over the last 15 years in our district is our district covers 1,036 square miles in southwest Louisiana. So we have urban areas, we have suburban areas, and we have deep rural areas down in the bayou and in the rice fields. And what E-rate has done with that formulaic approach to it is that we have been able to build out in last mile initiatives to our rural communities where I think as Mr. Coulter or Mr. Finn expanded upon, that it has been a community-wide effort. So as we have grown and had that connectivity to our schools, the fiber has been laid that's allowed the entire community to grow and expand and have opportunities that were not there before. So I would say for the most part, the approach is working well. I think there's some tinkering to be done with that. But I have confidence that the FCC and USAC, with the massive amount of data that they have, can examine and look at the metrics and make good, reasoned proposals that will do this last bit of work that's to be done. But we have gone tremendous lengths to reach out into our rural communities, I know in our state, and it's made a difference for the economic development in the entire state.